So it's like around 7 o'clock in the morning and I'm recording this. You guys should be happy I'm doing this at 7 o'clock in the morning. I don't really have any other time at the moment to do this, so it's actually good that I've got this Saturday to do this podcast in the morning because it's actually sometimes like, I collate my thoughts in the morning as well and I feel, oh, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And it sounds a lot better than, for example, if I was doing it in midday and I had sort of a midday slog and I was just like, oh, I'm too tired to do this. Okay, I've got morning sneezes as well, sorry. Um, but yeah, I thought I'd just get up early and just do this because it's important to me. I want to keep this podcast consistent for me and for you guys just because it's I feel there's a lot of things that need to be spoken about and I feel I don't want there to be like huge breaks and then people forget and then they're like, oh, what podcast? So um yeah, and I feel it's something to relate to and interact with as well. And I will say I would like to hear more people's um views and perceptions and their opinions and their stories and express themselves on this podcast. And I don't know if I mentioned before, but if you want to send in your recording, and you don't actually have to say your names. If you want to be anonymous, you can. You don't have to say who you are, or you can just use your first name. So if you want to just send in a recording of how you feel, if you've got your own story to share regarding this topic, then please do, because then I will add it to the following podcast, the next podcast, and I'll share it at the beginning just so we can have a recap of the last week's one. This week's topic will be regarding growing up in a single parent family. I really wanted to do this topic, not just because it's my own experience, but because I know there's a lot of people, a lot of youth out there who have grown up in a single parent family, and I think it's not talked about enough as it should be, because obviously in the community, in the Punjabi community, it is what I feel is like still looked down upon. Being divorced and living without your spouse, whether it's and more so for women really, from what I can see. If you feel differently, do get in touch with me via email. It's okg podcast@gmail.com. So if you want to share your experiences, please do. So in regards to the way I grew up, so my mom got divorced about like 20 plus years ago. I was still very, very young. So I think I was around 4 when it officially happened. I wasn't quite sure, to be honest with you. I'm not going to go into detail as to why my parents got divorced because that is more of a family matter, and I'm not going to talk about it in public because it's not really anyone's business. It's my mom's business. So, but I will just give a sort of like overview of the situation, how I grew up and stuff. I mean, I didn't really realize that I didn't have a father figure in my life probably until I was in towards the end of primary school. I didn't really miss having a father figure until then, but then everyone used to talk about their parents all the time and I would just be like, yeah, I have a mom. And everyone would be like, yeah, my mom and dad are like this, my mom and dad are like this, or they would talk about their siblings. Oh, by the way, I have an older sister as well, just just in case if anyone's wondering if I had any siblings. I do have an older sister. Unfortunately though, both my father and my sister are like, I'm estranged from them, so yeah, it's just one of those things that is like a multitude of reasons as to why we don't talk and why we don't stay in contact. Um, but yeah, going back to when I was in primary school, it was mainly just the reasoning that I was just like, okay, I don't know how to explain this actually. It was just a sort of, I felt like something was missing. I started to feel like something was missing, but I didn't really know what it was. And I think it was just the presence of having a father figure and a presence of having another sibling, like because everyone at school seemed to have all these brothers and sisters and they had a dad around the house and it was just me and my mom all the time. But when I started to get into secondary school, I think it's when it affected me a little bit more because my mom actually started to get a bit more overprotective, and I started to realize it's like, so you can't go out yet, you can't do this, you can't do that. Even trying to walk me to school in year seven, it's just like, oh my god, I used to get so much stick for that. Um, but yeah, so I think it was kind of just like, because she could see I was becoming a teenager, she was trying to get more overprotective, and she felt like she needed to do that because, that she was a single parent. Obviously, she didn't have to do that, but I think it was just the pressure of society as well. Because thing is, I feel like single mothers or single dads do get looked at more if they're bringing up a kid on their own, because society is kind of looking at them like, will that kid turn out okay because they've only got a mum or they've only got a dad? And it's kind of like they put on a bit of a pedestal. And I definitely felt that growing up as well, and observing people in my own community, in our own community, Punjabi community at Gurdwara as well, the way they treated mum, the way, the sort of attitude they had towards her. I mean, it wasn't all bad, but there was some instances when I was just like, yeah, there really is a difference. I mean, for example, when, like, the amount of times like mom's like, yeah, I'm gonna wear jeans today. Like, she wears salwar kameez like all the time. She wears Indian suits all the time, but she doesn't. She wants to wear jeans sometimes with like a kurta top or something, and she never has the confidence to. And I think it's mainly to do with the fact of what other people will say, and it's quite sad, really, because it's like she should be able to wear whatever she wants to wear. But I think it's mainly because she feels, the bibis or aunties at the gurdwara will say something to her, and it will be like, oh, like, who does she think she is, sort of thing, or like, oh, look at her, like, sort of talk shit, and like they do, and we all know they all gossip, got nothing better to do. And the amount of times I said, why don't you just do it? Who cares what anyone thinks? At the end of the day, society hasn't really been there for us, and that is pretty much the truth. I can't really think of one person who's like been there from start until now. There's been like people coming in and out of our lives. Like, sometimes they've been really close to us and then they've drifted off, and then sometimes they've been really close to us and they've drifted off, and it's like, yeah, I can't think of self personally someone who's like been one of my mum's friends who's actually stayed there till from the beginning up until now and actually had her back. So I can understand why she doesn't want people commenting on what she's doing, but I feel like that's why I said, to the end of the day, society is going to carry on saying whatever they're going to be saying about whoever they're going to be saying it about. It's just like, you need to do you. But she still has that sort of thing where it's just like, nah, just leave it, can't be bothered. But she probably really does want to wear those pair of jeans. And it sounds really silly, but it's small things like that it's small things like that actually create the bigger issues, because it's like, well, why should she care what people think? Just because she's a single mother, she feels like she can't wear what she wants to wear because people will talk about her more. So does that mean that people with husbands are allowed to wear whatever they want because they know that they've got a husband? So it's like a sort of having a superiority above people who are divorced. And is this stigmatism in our society? It's been going on for quite a long time, actually. I mean, as far as I can remember. And then even before that, like 20, 30 years before, there was like such a stigmatism about someone who's getting a divorce. It was kind of like unheard of. And when people did it, they were like sort of shamed for it. And I feel there is not as much now, but it is still prevalent in society today. It still happens. And I can definitely see it. I mean, sometimes I just don't like going Gurdwara because it's kind of like people come up to you, and I still hear things like this. It's kind of like I feel they have this sympathy for you, or they feel pity for you. And it's like, my mom doesn't need people to pity her. She does everything herself, basically. She doesn't really get help. And when she does get help, she doesn't feel like ever asking for help again because she feels like the other person's acting like they did her a favour. So as I said in the previous podcast, she pretty much does everything herself. And I try to do as much as I can by myself as well. And that's what it's always been like. And by the way, I'm not going to say we have the perfect relationship, because we don't. We're like mother and daughter, and we do clash on occasion because our views still differ quite a lot in terms of me. I'm move with the times, and my mum, she tries to move with the times but she doesn't want to as much, and then sometimes I have to educate on her and stuff, and she educates on me and stuff as well. I'm not gonna lie, she has been right about a lot of things, but she's still at an age where she can, and to be honest, you can grow at any age, you can learn at any age. There's not a specific age, to be honest, but everyone's family, everyone has arguments. It's no one's family is perfect, I just want to say. And everyone, if anyone makes out that they are, I'm sorry, but they're just lying to you. They're not. Everyone's family has issues, but I think it comes down to like sort of, I will still have her back. I'll still stick up for it. I've never had anyone come up to us in the Gurdwara and say anything to her while I was there. But there has been a few occasions where mom has got some snide remarks when people have said things to her and I wasn't there. And I was just like, why does it always happen when I'm not around? I do not understand. Um, thing is, I don't really talk at the Gurdwara. I don't really socialize quite a lot, and I think people obviously they're unaware of what I'm really like, or or the views I have or anything like that, because I'm not really vocal about them, especially not the good one. I'm not really going to say anything, and they probably think, oh, she's so quiet. Yeah, quiet. Far from, actually. Well, I can be when I want to, but yeah, far from. Um, it's kind of getting back to the point about growing up in a going off in a bit of tangent there, wasn't I? Growing up in a single parent household, there are a lot of people who experience this as well. It's kind of, there is a sense of, I feel, discriminatory behaviour from people in the community in terms of, as I said, they feel like they're superior to women or men who are single parents, especially women to other women. It's just always constantly women bringing down other women. I just don't understand. Um, it's constantly other aunties like bringing down like other women, especially if they're single or they're divorced. It's kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, it's so hard for you. Oh, bless you. Or Bajari, like, oh my god, if I hear Bajari like one more time, I'm gonna have a fit. The amount of times someone said calls my mum a Bajari, it does my head in. Like, how is she a Bajari? You're basically just, by saying that, you're denouncing that she can do everything herself, and you're kind of making her feel like she's meek and like she's really like a sort of mousy type figure, and she's not. And by doing that, you're also making her feel like, oh yeah, she needs to be looked after. She doesn't need to be looked after by anyone. She does, as I said, she's done time and time again. She's done everything herself. And and that's the kind of trait that I've gotten from her as well. So, you know, I hate hearing that sort of terminology being used. It just does my head in. In terms of, I'll give you an example actually. She was at a wedding. It was quite a while ago. I wasn't actually at this wedding, but she told me what happened, and I was just like, had a bit of a jaw drop moment. I was like, are you joking me? This woman, she was a relative of ours, not a close relative at all, but she's related to us basically, and she was sitting next to this other woman, and my mum was sitting across from this relative, like right across from her directly, and the other woman goes to this relative, she's like, oh, you're wearing so much jewelry, and then the relative started like handling her jewelry like on her neck, and she looked to my mum and she goes, yeah, because I can wear it because I've got a husband. And I was just thinking to myself, are you joking, Mom? She goes, no, that's exactly what she said. Exactly the way she said it. And I was just thinking, wow, these people, I can't even describe what I think of these people right. I was just, why is that so necessary for you to act like that? So basically, you think you're superior to my mom because you have a husband, and you think that. And also, the fact that you think that if you don't have a husband, you can't wear jewelry. Like, how messed up is that? Like, you can do whatever you want, first of all. You can do what you want. You can wear what you want. You can, you know, eat what you want. I don't know if there's something to do with eating. You can't eat certain things as well now, but probably someone would say that, wouldn't she? Like, oh, you can't eat certain things if you're divorced. For goodness sake, I can't just So much BS flying around this community. I just can't. And after that, I just said to myself, like, did you not say anything? And she was like, what am I supposed to say? I was like, I don't care anymore. I was like, well, you clearly did, because obviously you came home and you told me and you were annoyed about it. And she was like, Menuki, you know. Um, and I said, you should have said something. You should have said, I can wear what I want as well. She was like, do you know what? There is no point in talking to these people, because if that's their sort, if that's the way they think, then they're not even good enough to respond to. And I was like, got a point there, to be honest with you. Not everything needs a response. Not everyone needs to be responded to. But there are times, like for example, we don't have a car at the moment, but a lot of people have come up to us in the good one and said, oh, you should get a car, you should get driving lessons, blah 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 blah. As I said before in the previous podcast, you never want to help, but you constantly want to have your little opinion, don't you? No, of course you do. I straight up said to one of, I got so fed up with this. The last person who said this to me, she was like, "Oh, why don't you get driving lessons? Why don't you get a car?" And I straight up said to her, I was like, because you need money for that, and you need to save up for it first." And she was like, "Yeah, that's true." And then she didn't ever ask me ever again. When I was like, "Yeah, good," because sometimes, as I said, sometimes you don't need to give a response, and sometimes you do. Because it gets so frustrating that you're like, okay, do you know what? You want a response? I'll just give it to you then. Okay, and then you can shut up. My life is not really any of your business. It's because if you don't even bother to help someone, and as I said before, I know sounds a little bit contradictory, because I'm saying my mom doesn't really need help, she does everything herself, but sometimes everyone does need help at some point, and I'm talking about those points when you do need help, and majority of the time no one's ever there. When I say we those points where we need help, it's supposed to be, as I said before in the beginning, the type of people who are there from the beginning and constantly have your back and you have theirs, and then it's like a mutual thing. But we've never really had that, because it's always been one-sided, or it starts off mutual and then it sort of drifts off and they just go on to someone else. It's just like these aunties love to like BB hop, like go from one BB to another, and sounds a bit weird, but it's true. They just like they start off with someone, they go off to someone else who they think is better, or who will join them in the little kitty parties. I don't know. Yeah, just it's exhausting. But yeah, I mean, it's very shocking the things that some people still say today on what their perception of how a divorced or single mother should act. And it's like, I don't understand why you think you should have an opinion on how single mothers or how divorced mothers should act. Sorry, divorced people should act, because at the end of the day, you're not in that position, and a lot of the time it's the divorce or the fact that you're now a single parent is it's not their fault. Like, especially when my mum's concerned, it wasn't her fault. um and it's not even about saying whose fault it is. It's just these things just happen, and you can't really predict these things either. You can't say, oh yeah, someone's going to become divorced or someone's going to become a single mother, because I know the way my mom was treated. I know she's told me everything. So, I mean, she's been through it all. She's been through like depression, custody cases, um, the divorce itself, just having zero support whatsoever from anyone when it first happened. It was just because she had another kid to look after. Obviously, she had me, so she couldn't really just sit there and be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna cry over this, because she had another person who was relying on her. So it's at the end of the day, it was very hard, but we're here now, like 20 plus years later, so something good must be come out of it. I mean, I'm not really going to talk a lot about this myself, because I kind of want to hear from you guys. Like, if you're from a single parent family, please do get in touch. Please do write into me with your experiences, because then I can share them on the podcast as well. Another thing that I've never actually seen happen is single mothers support one another. So if you think about when you go to the Gurdwara, like I've never really seen single mothers like talk to each other or hang out with each other or even have like a group together just so they can support each other. And I think that is something that should happen more, just so they have their own little, group where they can go to if they're having issues or if they want to talk about something that they need help with. But in our community, I don't really think that really tends to happen. Thanks for listening to OKG, guys. If you want to follow me, like and subscribe out on YouTube, and also it's okgpodcast@gmail.com if you want to email me or send in your recordings to get involved in the discussions. Thank you. Bye.